We are in the week of weeks. Yes, I know. All investors are not currently asking the weekly question, but only the one question. What happens next? Was that it? Are we now going directly into the bear market? Or is there still this last washout where the last weekend investor is flushed out, selling at a big loss, only to stand ready again at 100K? I will reveal it to you in this video, at least a forecast in that direction, also what is incredibly relevant this week, and what could completely turn everything around without hype at this point, just the facts. And furthermore, I will also provide you with an update on XRP and the SEC. How could things continue there now? I would say that's enough for the intro. Let's get started. See you afterwards. Now, new UP Trend VIP trading. Your opportunity to copy the signals of true profit traders for free. They managed to grow an account from $4,000 to $30,000 within 2 months. The results in the group are also impressive. All you need for this is a deposit of $100 into your BingX account. You can find all further information below in the description. Yes, at this point, it can only be reiterated by the dip. This has been preached all along, but we also see again, and I warned you before, not to throw everything in all at once. It can still go down another level, and we are already seeing it right now. And if things go really, really badly, we will get to the trading setup in a moment. Then we could even see another correction. So if you are planning to buy right now, do DC8s and dollar cost averaging, because depending on whether the prices should drop further and you buy in portions, you have the great advantage of securing a significantly lower entry price, that is an average entry price. There are several reasons why crypto is currently in such a poor state. However, at this point, we should just note, I showed it last week. I said this is the critical value here. And yes, there are inherent crypto problems that currently do not affect the NASDAQ. However, Bitcoin is completely correlated with what the NASDAQ is currently delivering. And this is also going significantly downwards. So we are seeing right now, and this is really bad, the daily close was exactly here in this critical zone. So it remains to be seen how things will proceed today. We see there was a lot of contact here, testing, whether it continued downwards with rejection or a breakthrough upwards. But this is once again a very critical threshold where we should take a very close look today at how things progress. Because if it continues downwards, this could, for example, be another critical area. There was also a lot of testing here. Then we can also be sure that Bitcoin will drop another level as a result. The Fear and Greed Index once again underscores the picture that I am describing here. You can't sugarcoat it at this point. The Fear and Greed Index has hit a new low, now at a value of 17. So, absolutely wild. At this point, you can only hold on to the saying, be greedy when others are fearful. No investment advice. But it might make sense to start slowly with DCA now, because whether we will see this critical value in the long term or if it will fall much further, I don't know. But I don't want to make any predictions about it anymore. One can say that the reasons still feel the same as they have for several days. So, whether it's the trade war that Trump has instigated, which in turn has affected the NASDAQ, it has reacted quite strongly. Additionally, we have the weak labor market numbers from Friday, which have also dampened the mood quite a bit, because that rather suggests that the Fed won't make any significant interest rate cuts for now. Yes, and then we also had this crypto summit. Let's just leave it at that. But I had already pointed that out before and said, well, I don't really believe in it. Well, and that's exactly how it went. The thing was an absolute waste of a meeting and triggered an extremely strong bearish impulse. Now, I would like to first thank you briefly and also congratulate you for sticking with it. Now that everyone is leaving the cosmos, now it gets exciting. Almost 4,000 views on the video yesterday, 229 likes. Today, we'll break 300. I would be super happy about it because you also really pushed the algorithm forward. This video is growing. You support my work, my hours of research, and all of it simply and for free. just leave a like now, completely free for you. And then this video will also be pushed further up. And of course, you are welcome to write a comment below, sharing your opinion on it. Critical voices are also welcome. And if you're now asking yourself, yes, Daniel, but what is the purpose of this channel? You can see that here, crypto news, honestly, based, without hype, transparent, and summarized for you, plus a daily trading setup. If you're up for it, feel free to leave a free subscription and activate the bell. And as you can see here, now it's getting exciting. When will we break the 10K mark? I'm looking forward to it. And then there will be a real confetti shower. I can tell you that much in advance, but now let's get straight to the crypto news. I have already talked extensively about what options Trump now has with executive orders. You should take a look at it. Click in here. If you had done it before, you wouldn't have been so shocked now, because many expected that this executive order would simply mandate Bitcoin or ordered a crypto reserve. But that's not possible, because only the seized funds can now be converted into a reserve. That's all well and good. However, the US government currently holds no Solana, no ADA, and no XRP. Accordingly, the enthusiasm was very limited, unless there are other wallets that we don't know about. Here is the screenshot for it. Now it gets interesting. So I can hardly imagine, as stated in the article, that Ethereum is now being converted into Bitcoin. I don't believe it. However, there are also BNB included in the holdings. Nothing has been mentioned about BNB being in a reserve. Therefore, it could also be that the US government sells BNB to possibly buy Bitcoin with it. Just so you're not shocked in the end. Shall we get straight to the most important economic data? And it starts right away tomorrow, specifically with the JOLTS job report. If the number of job openings increases, it could be interpreted as a sign of a robust labor market. This would logically be positive for the stock market in this context, and thus everything that follows, like Bitcoin, and so on. Now, this number might remain weak or even fall below expectations. Then recession fears would be correspondingly heightened. And unfortunately, I don't even want to say it, it would lead to even more selling in the markets. However, the most exciting thing is ahead of us on Wednesday for this week. And I've also made a separate video about it, but I'll get to that in a moment. We are talking about the consumer price index. If inflation falls more than expected, so we have a forecast of 2.9, currently it's 3%, then interest rate cuts could be considered. That is the consumer price index, a widely discussed topic. Low interest rates make risky investments more attractive again. So, in summary, Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related assets would benefit from this. However, if inflation remains high or even rises further, then the hope for an imminent interest rate cut also diminishes. I don't even want to say it, but you can imagine for yourselves what could happen to risk assets in this scenario. I would like to briefly point out this graphic again, because it is absolutely wild. We are talking about a US inflation index of 1.39%. Hey Daniel, didn't you just mention a forecast of 2.9%? Exactly. I have already talked about it in detail in a video. Feel free to click in here. However, I also discussed it over the weekend with a hedge fund manager who said that the calculation basis for this value is different. And normally, this has nothing to do with what these forecasts here are. I am very curious, because if that really happens, folks, then it's going to explode. So I rarely make any bullish forecasts, but if it should happen like that, wow, then I'm really curious. On Thursday, the producer prices are also due. This means, of course, if production costs fall, consumer prices could decrease with a delay. And that would be a positive signal for the market and potentially a bullish reaction for Bitcoin and all Bitcoin. However, if they continue to rise, then inflation fears could be fueled and crypto could be burdened, of course, because then risk assets are simply not in high demand. And that could then lead to an outflow from crypto, stock market, etc. And finally, on Friday, it's about consumer confidence, or rather, the inflation expectations. In essence, weak consumer confidence could indicate a weakening economy, which in turn means uncertainty for investors. And thus, it would be bad for the stock market and crypto. If the situation were reversed, of course, it would be a bullish impulse. Before we get to the trading setup and briefly touch on Ripple, let's first take a look at which states are actually considering a crypto or Bitcoin reserve. You can see here, most of them are still pending. There are already some that have declined, but none have fully approved it yet. That is not the case yet, which is also logical. Such things take time. And of course, it needs to be approved by various authorities. Now, briefly back to Utah, because today the news came out. Yes, there's a Bitcoin law, and everyone naturally thinks of the reserves. Yes, or that first reserves were mentioned, it was said that 5% of public funds would be invested in crypto, where the market capitalization dies over $500 billion. Well, currently, only Bitcoin is considered in this context. Now, the crazy thing is there's another draft, and it has been approved. There's no mention of crypto reserves at all. So it's about allowing investors to now custody crypto assets. Mining and operating a node are legalized. And staking processes, they are also allowed to be used. That is all nice and friendly, but in the end, please don't read too much into it. Now, briefly about Ripple, because maybe you didn't know, but investing in crypto is risky, but even highly risky. And XRP is considered crypto, so it's naturally the same there. So yes, of course, you can gamble on it now and say, yes, Ripple versus SEC. In this case, it will be dismissed. You can be relatively sure of that. The only question is when. And that's why we come back to the topic. If you are now planning to invest in Audi XRP, then use DCA, buy in installments. Wait. And then if the prices drop further, buy again. Then you'll have a cheaper entry price. Because that's the big question right now. Yes, the SEC, they are incredibly active at the moment. And I think it's good what they're doing, where they are dismissing various lawsuits that are simply questionable. However, there is nothing yet that indicates in any way that the SEC will now also drop the case against Ripple. And it is still in question that Paul altcoins must first be in power, which he is not yet, for this verdict to be in any way scrapped, or the entire lawsuit, and then everything possibly turns out in favor of Ripple. However, if that should be the case, then I definitely believe that it will be an incredible bullish impulse for the entire cosmos. If you have a different opinion, feel free to write it in the comments. But now let's move directly to the trading setup. So basically, we can note that we have a Bitcoin dominance that is almost completely in a sideways movement. So it feels like since the 10th February, nothing has happened here, and therefore we don't need to get ready for anything new right now and say an altcoin season is coming. For that to happen, something would need to occur here. First, and especially Bitcoin would need to rise significantly so that we have an overheated area, which could then lead to outflows and thus start the altcoin season. At least if it goes as it historically always has, because that's where we see exactly the trend reversal. Everything is currently moving out of Bitcoin. Well, for those who have been paying attention and have looked at the charts, this is not new information I'm sharing with you. But you see, we had our drawn symmetrical triangle here and we were hoping for it. Yes, here the rejection. Then it went up significantly again. Oh, what a surprise, March 2nd. What happened then? Yes, suddenly all Bitcoin were pumped up significantly again. And then accordingly shot back down with the increase of tariffs. That was our Trump dump and dump. And then it went here, but unfortunately also well into the downturn. And now it gets interesting because, yes, not much has happened here. So I don't even want to say it, but it could also happen that we hit such a zone down here again. But now, directly onto the trading setup, what can you get out of this situation? So, first of all, I like to use BingX for this, at least in this account, which I manage for someone else and show you completely neutrally. I have just, as you can see here, the arrow also just closed a position in Ethereum because I'm now waiting and saying, okay, here it looks again like we could continue moving downwards, and I'd rather look for a better entry further down. If you're interested in trading without KYC, you can do so using the link in the description. And you also get a deposit bonus. If you deposit $100, you get $25 credited to your futures account. And if you deposit $500, it's even $80. So if you're interested, you can use it. Below, you can see some positions that are still good. Open! They are currently in the red, but that's all fine. It pays off again. When you don't go in with excessive leverage, and especially if you have enough capital to add more, then DCA is worthwhile somewhere. Because when the whole thing shoots back up, you'll be really happy about some hefty profits. Let's first take a look at Bitcoin. Yes, you can notice once again, the market makers were quite active and they fished exactly for this liquidity. And then unfortunately, it went back down again. And therefore, that's also the curious thing about it. When we look at further time intervals, you feel like you can't find anything anymore. Sure, up here there's something, but it's not absolutely wild for now. I'm deliberately going way out to 6 months now. And if we, as soon as it loads, yes, when we look out here, we're exactly back in this critical zone that I mentioned. So down here, there's still quite a bit if you compare it with up here. Not comparable. So maybe mentally prepare yourselves for the possibility that we could really approach this value again. And therefore, you should also check now if you have open positions that might currently be in the negative, how far they are from being liquidated. And then, if necessary, you should add margin or set another limit order further down so that you don't get liquidated. Here's another look at the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin. I mentioned it exactly like that. You can also see here in the volume area down here, around 69,000 to 70,000. Maybe even if you look now where the corresponding points that are even further down. So it extends roughly down to 64,000 where it might dip down, and then hopefully it will continue upwards again. We'll see. These are also the news now. Of course, what's crucial here is that we are still in this downtrend. Symmetrical triangle, yes. It could also culminate in this zone down here. Right now it's going down again, we'll see. There might be another upward impulse, or eventually there will be a breakthrough downwards. We see how often it has been tested here, and there was always rejection upwards. Well, here it looked quite clean. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to get above it here either. And now, yes, it really looks like it gets weaker the more often we test a certain zone. Continuing with a look at Ethereum, wow, a lot of liquidity has built up down here. So it's quite conceivable. Yes, this is the 12-hour view. Now let's take a look at the daily chart. Also, not quite as intense there, but still quite massive. So I can very well imagine that this zone down here will be targeted again relatively soon. Here's another quick look at the chart. And it gets interesting there too. Here is the lower volume area. If we look in here now, there would already be a certain support zone being targeted. What's exciting is where we currently stand according to Fibonacci. Specifically, we add these two lines. This is always a pretty critical value. So the 0.618 and the 0.650. And here we can also see that's where the movement is right now. Now, it gets interesting. So let's take another look at the whole thing from a broader perspective. Yes, we have here, now on the weekly view, we have broken this uptrend downward. Is there perhaps a reversal happening, or will it continue downward again? That brings us back to the topic of Bitcoin. Depending on how Bitcoin performs now, we will also see how things progress here. A quick look at the 4-hour view again. I also mentioned if we sustainably fall below this zone here, then it is relatively likely that we will only find support here again. And everything currently looks like this area will also be targeted. A final quick look at XRP. I had to zoom out quite a bit here. We are now on the 2-week view. And one could say, okay, there is now an area that might still be attractive. It's not massive, but otherwise you can see on the whole chart, no bicho tapwai. There's not much lying around. Now, a quick look at the 4-hour chart again. And yes, what can I say? We are back in this critical zone that I had marked here. And if the should fall in some form now because of market conditions, etc. Now not running as they should, or Bitcoin crashes, and then everything else along with it. In that case, I consider this value to be quite realistic. Let's see if it happens that way. It would be nice if we had a trend reversal now. However, it just doesn't look like it right now because even XRP is really struggling. That should be it for today. I'm curious, did you like the market data? What do you think about the economic impulses that could come this week? Is it going down? Is it going up? What do you think? Write about it in the comments. And if you liked the video and would like to support my work a little, feel free to leave a free like. And otherwise, as mentioned in the video, feel free to check out this video. I talk about these Bitcoin reserves, or rather crypto reserves, and what Trump can actually enact and how it can all come about, and whether it's all that simple. If you're ready for the truth, then check out the video. We'll see each other tomorrow in the next update. Until then, all the best. Bye.